Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game The Island of El Dorado. This was sent to me by PlayMonster and is designed by Daniel Aronson. In the Island of El Dorado, you are a brave explorer seeking to discover and control the island's 4 shrines. You'll reveal a unique and challenging landscape every single time the game is played, which will require you to adjust your strategy as you go. Managing resources and battling the other explorers, it's a tense and explosive race to control the shrines first. Let me show you how to play. So in the Island of El Dorado, you are trying to find the shrines. There are 4 shrines in the game, and whoever controls all 4 shrines wins the game. Each player starts with resources in their hand. We've got wood, gold, and food. Now on your turn, you roll these 2 golden dice. And then, wow, that's a terrible roll. You'll see why that's a problem later. You pick 1 dice for movement and 1 dice for resources. And if you roll snake eyes like I just did, fuck you. Anyway, so let's say I decide to move 1. All right, let's change it. I'm going to say, I don't know, 3 and 2. Okay? So I'll move 2. So what I can do, if I discover a new tile, I can spend 1 speed of my 2 speed, 2 speed to reveal the tile. A random tile is placed. Oh, it's water. If it's water, I get pushed back. Okay, I can use another speed to check this tile. It's a food tile, so I move on to it. Now, the rules for exploration are a tile has to border 2 other tiles. In the beginning of the game, obviously, you can't do that, but once the second tile is placed, for example, I could not explore a tile here, but oh, look, there's water here. I couldn't explore a tile here, but I could explore a tile here because there are 2 tiles touching it, or here because there are 2 tiles touching it. I forgot to say though, before you even move, you gather. So when you gather, whatever tile you're on at the moment, you can get that many of that resource. This is gold, so I get 3 gold cards. Cards go in your hand. Your max hand size is 9 at the end of your turn. If you have more than 9, you got to discard down. So that's important because first you gather with the tile you're on, or if you have a tile with a villager and your farmhouse adjacent to it, we'll get to that later, and then you do your movement. Now, during your movement, you can do buy actions and attack actions. So every player starts with a character. For example, Hector the Corporal here is +1 maximum villager. But it tells you the phases here, and also this is stuff that you can buy. So if I spend 1 food card, I could put down a villager. Before I can buy a villager though, I need to buy a building. So let's say red player was here, and they decided they're gonna build a farmhouse. So to buy a farmhouse, you have to spend 1 wood and 1 gold from your hand, and if you do, you can place a farmhouse on one of the corners of the tile your explorer is currently occupying. Let's say he puts it right here. Okay? You can also, if you want to remove this farmhouse, you can spend the resources you needed to build it to remove it if you are adjacent to it. Then if I have a building, then I can use food to place villagers next to a building that I own. There are also offerings. Offerings are things we'll need for shrines. We'll get into that later. You can also build a fort. A fort costs 3 gold. If you these are aggressive buildings placed on the corner of a tile, and these help you in battle. So let's just build up the board a little more. Let's say red player builds a fort here. Now during your movement, you can also move your army. So during your explore phase, you can move your army and pay using gold. So an army is a group of any number of villagers on a single tile. Let's say I had 2 villagers over here. During my explore phase, I can move my army as many spaces as I'd like. So I could spend 1 gold to move my army over here. During an opponent's explore phase, let's say this blue player goes over here, I can pay to move my army 1 space to attack an on-turn explorer or army on an adjacent tile, even if it interrupts their movement. So let's say he moves here. I could spend a gold and start a fight here. We'll get into that in a second. If you're being attacked, you may pay a gold to flee one tile away from the battle tile if you want. So let's go through attacking. A battle is initiated when an attacker moves onto a tile occupied by an opponent. And that tile becomes the battle tile until it's over. So let's say that the blue explorer had, let's say, a villager over here. So first, the attacker has the opportunity to move their explorer or villagers to the battle tile. So they can spend 1 gold to move a villager here. Oh, I'm sorry, let's say there's a explorer here. Okay. Now this player could spend 1 gold to move these guys here. And let's say he just decides to do that. Now, it's time for the battle. So the attacker rolls a number of black battle die equal to their total strength on the tile. And the highest result defeats the opponent. So in this case, blue explorer, they have, let's say, 1 strength, and then their villager adds a strength, and he rolls. Okay, so that's a result of 2. This explorer has 2 villagers with him, and he also has a fort next to him, so that's going to be 4 die. The forts support adjacent tiles. Okay, that would be a result of 4, so this player wins. So what happens is any defeated villagers are killed, and if an explorer is defeated, then they lose half of their resource cards. They choose them to give to the victor. The victor will then take their piece, and on the next time they go, they get to decide where they go, depending on or where they start from. They can place their defeated opponent on an unoccupied tile next to a shrine that they control, or if that's not possible, then anywhere. You can also attack a farmhouse. So let's say blue player was here, and they choose to initiate an attack on the adjacent farmhouse. You have the opportunity to move your villagers if you'd like to interrupt the attack. So let's say they attack the farmhouse. They roll a 3. The farmhouse itself defends itself with a 1. It's not going to matter. And so the farmhouse would be destroyed. Now, the goal of the game is you're trying to find island shrines. So let's find one of those. Let's say you found one. Then you place one of these fancy shrine tiles on it, like so. And the goal of the game is you're trying to place offerings on shrines. So offerings cost 2 food, 2 wood, 2 gold. If you spend those cards from your hand and you're adjacent to a shrine, you can place an offering on the shrine. When you place an offering on a shrine, your explorer's strength increases by 1. So now, this explorer rolls 2 dice in battle. Also, if you are ever defeated in battle, this is a spawn point, so you don't have to start over anywhere. You go adjacent to one of your shrines. There are 3 basic shrines you have to find on the board, and then there's also the cave shrine, which let me show you that. So one of the tiles is the cave entrance. If you find the cave entrance, then a separate board called the cave is formed on the board. Once you enter the cave, then you're trying to explore it and find the cave shrine. There are possible threats in here you'll have to fight. This cave dweller is strength 4. If you encounter it, you'd have to do a fight against it. But let's say you find the cave shrine here. Now normally this would be impossible because the cave shrine is always in the bottom half of the deck, but I'm just showing you this as an example. Oh, you can't place tiles adjacent to X's, so let's just move it like that. As soon as you move onto this cave shrine tile, you immediately control it, and your explorer's strength increases by 2. You don't need to put an offering on this shrine. When you leave the tile, you take it and put it in your possession. Now, if anyone defeats this explorer in battle, then they seize the tile and that +2 strength bonus for themselves. And then, like I mentioned, there are also cave dwellers you would have to fight, or there's thieves in there you also have to fight. But yeah, you're basically just searching for this cave shrine. So to win the game, you have to own the cave shrine and place offerings on the 3 main shrines. Once you do that, you win the game. And that's pretty much the game. You just go around exploring tiles, collecting resources, trying to build stuff for... Oh, I forgot to mention one thing for resource gathering. So, if I have a farmhouse and I have a villager on next to the farmhouse, when I roll my dice, again, a shitty roll. Okay, let's say I rolled 3 for that, and my explorer was on the food tile, but this villager is next to this farmhouse. That means I have more options for resource gathering. So I could grab food cards with that roll, and because I have a villager next to a farmhouse on a gold tile, I could get gold as well. And that is pretty much the game. You build the villagers for your army to attack things, buildings to protect or get resources, find the shrines, put offerings on them, build up your strength, and race to find the shrines. There are some different powers. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's one for each color. This guy gets a maximum 1 extra villager. This one you can re-roll your golden dice roll once per turn. This one +1 food per turn. This one you can rearrange the top 3 tiles before exploring to find better tiles. This guy you can steal resources. I'm not going to go through all of them. There are like 12 different ones or whatever. And yeah, there are some other modes as well. I'm not going to go into them, but there is like a thief mode, a hardcore mode. I'll mention hardcore mode later. But otherwise, that's pretty much the basic concepts of the game. So that's that. So let's start with the obvious. The game's components look really nice. The box even looks elegant. It has a nice sort of, almost like magnetic flap. There was no expense spared for making the pieces. The art looks really nice. The dice are very deluxe. It looks great. With that said, this is a lot of production for what is at its core a pretty mediocre game. The biggest problem is you have to roll dice for movement and resources. Rolling for movement is almost universally an awful idea, because if you roll badly, you're shit out of luck. With that said, the game does include a hardcore mode where everyone instead has an equal number of action points, so it was accounted for, I guess, but I'll be frank, this should not have been in hardcore mode. This should have been implemented in the base game. Exploring the tiles is, fun, I guess, although, again, it's a lot of just random, what's this? Okay, I'm just looking for the shrine. I like the buildings and, getting villagers next to farmhouses, gather resources, but it's very simple. Battling is pretty mindless. I mean, you just roll a bunch of dice and see what happens. The rules are a little too fiddly considering how mindless the end result is. Like, oh, well, you can move this here, and you can move this guy's here, and spend that. And oh, there's a farmhouse, or a fort, you can power that up. Oh, blah, blah. Who cares? You're just rolling dice. Hardcore mode does let you spend gold to change, like, maybe 1 die result or something. Or, again, something that, if you're going to do that, that should have been in the base game. Or, I don't know, just make the battles a little more interesting than just rolling dice. Another issue is the cave shrine, where if you happen to discover all the other shrines first, which happened to us, then it literally just becomes a race to see who's lucky enough to find that shrine first. Because there's no, like, putting an offering on it. It's just, you land on it, you get it. So, at the end, after all this, like, building stuff and searching for shrines, the end result will just me, or just a couple players just being like, okay, boop, 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 I found it, I win. Who can flip over the card first? It starts as something that pretends to be strategic, ends in just a silly race of luck. I didn't despise this game, but it's not very good. There are other modes included in the game, but it doesn't change the fact that the overall experience is still pretty plain, and even still annoyingly luck-based, even in the hardcore mode. This is basically like someone was like, what if I took Catan and combined it with Risk? And both of those games suck. So it's just like, okay, what if I made a even more annoying game? Not recommended.